Good day. So, as you may or may not know, in real life, outside of this screen that I'm stuck in right now, I am actually a guitar teacher in real life. And one of the things that I come across a lot is people who have developed bad habits in their playing. And that's things which they may have learned from another teacher who perhaps didn't teach them very well, or they taught themselves and they just didn't know what they were doing, so they developed these bad habits. And once you have these habits and it's stuck in your muscle memory and you're so used to doing it that way, and you present them a new way of playing that's going to improve them, it's very difficult for them to adjust because the habit is so ingrained in them that it can be very tough to get out of. So in this video I'm going to give you a bunch of habits which I think are good things to develop as early as possible. And if you do have bad habits and some of these you don't do, or maybe you do the opposite, don't panic, they're easily correctable, you just have to focus on it a little bit. So let's have a look at some of these habits that I'm banging on about. Finger placement on the fretboard. So I see a lot of people putting their finger just in random places on the fret, don't really seem to have any thought on where their finger's going. So the best place for your finger to be is just before the fret, or the fret wire, the fret bar, the fret piece of metal, whatever you want to call it. So this bar here, let's say that's my fret, I'm playing the first fret, I'm going to play this fret. So this is my bar, I'm going to play just before it. My finger's going to go down just before the fret. That's the optimal place for it. If I go too far over, I'll start to deaden the note or go into the next note, which just sounds dreadful. Or if I'm too far back, you won't hear it up here, but in some cases, in a lot of cases, if you have your finger too far back from the fret, you'll start to get a buzzy sound. Maybe I can do it on this. I don't know if you can hear that, there's just a bit of a buzzy sound, which will go away when you move your finger up the fret. So always try to keep your fingers just before the fret all the time. There's certain places where you can get away with being in the middle of the fret, like if it doesn't buzz, then I guess there's not really an issue, but generally try to keep next to the fret at all times as much as possible. So the next thing is to use the tips of your fingers. You want to be right on the end of your fingers as much as possible, because this is going to allow you to get your fingers out the way of the other strings. If you have your fingers kind of flat or not bent like this, I see people do, you can hear a lot of the notes of the chord are getting muffled because the bottom of my fingers are touching the strings below them. So if you get right on the tips, curl your fingers round so they're right out the way, you get yourself a nice clear chord. So try to be on the tips of your fingers at all times. And again, you can get away with not being on the tips of your fingers in certain situations, using the pads of your fingers more, but again, aim for the tips. It's going to help overall, and everything will be amazing. And that ties into another point, as I just mentioned, keeping your fingers clear of the other strings is really important, especially if you're just starting to learn chords. I see people learning open chords and they'll play it, but they'll have a note like that, or a couple of notes like that which are muted, because my first finger, the bottom of it is touching that string, so I need to curl it round so I can free up both of them. And if you're having trouble reaching your hand right round and getting on the tips of your fingers, one thing that can come into play, which I think people don't realise, is thumb position. If your thumb is really high up on the neck, up here, it can be a lot harder to do things, so lowering your thumb down can really help. So mess around with thumb position because it's different for different people, different finger length, different hand sizes, different guitars. So do experiment with all this stuff actually, and try to find what works for you. But thumb position can play a big part in how easy certain things are, especially getting your fingers curled round. Bar chords is another one, especially for thumb position. If you're trying to do bar chords and you're struggling, try adjusting the whereabouts of your thumb. If you put it lower down, it's generally a bit easier to get the rest of your hand round. If it's quite high up, it can make it hard to get this part of your finger against the guitar. Experiment. So another big thing is how you hold your plec. I see some people hold it like this, which offers no stability to the plec and it just flies around all over the place when they're playing. and it's just no use. You need to have complete control over this while you're playing, otherwise you're just going to be a little bit sloppy. So what I like to do is I hold it like this generally, so that's under the first finger and under the thumb. So what I do is throw my plec on the floor and then ruin the video, and then I pick my plec back up and then continue the video. So I put my finger out like this, and then I'll place the plec on the end with the pointy bit sticking outwards, so it's almost like my finger has a little horn or something, and then curl it round, slap the thumb over the top, and you've got yourself a nice well-held plec. You don't want to have too much showing either. I see people play like this, again, too much showing is just going to result in instability in the plec, and you can't control it when it's hitting strings. So hold lots of it to keep control and master the plectrum. Now another big thing that new players come across is they can't hit the right string. So they'll go to hit the D string and they'll end up hitting the G string unless they're looking at that hand. So what you can do to remedy that, and what I always do, is have my hand planted somewhere on the guitar. So whether on the bridge, or your fingers up here, or your wrist up here, as long as some point of your hand is touching the guitar, it gives you a reference point to move from. If my hand is just floating like this, I don't really know where my hand is in relation to the string. So is it above the A string here? Is it above the G string here? Is it above the B string here? I don't know. I can't feel anything. If you have your hand planted somewhere, over time you start to get used to it and you know where you are in relation to which string you want to hit. You could do it like that, like I say, fingers down there. Or you could do a combination of all of them. I'd probably do a combination. You could have your hand above. So experiment with hand position. Like I say, different things are going to work for different people. So this is the biggest and toughest one of all that I have to try and convince people is good for them, and that's alternate picking. That means picking down, up, down, up, down, up all the time, rather than just going down, 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 down. Because you're going to limit yourself a lot if you only ever down pick. You need to go down, up, down, up. You need to start getting into the habit of it. Because down, 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 down. It can work for some things, and it definitely should be used in some places because it provides a different sound to alternate picking, but for the most part you want to start alternate picking and you need to get into the habit of it. I hear a lot of people say, I can't do it, because they've done down picking for so long that they're so used to it. When they try to do alternate picking, it just feels weird to them, which is understandable because it should feel weird because it's new, but it's paramount to get this. So if you don't alternate pick, now is the time to start learning, my friends. The earlier you take this, the better it will be. And there's not like a fixed rule of you have to down, up, down, up, down, up rigidly. Sometimes you could go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up. Depending on the riff, depending on the piece, it fits in different ways. But it's all about creating less motion. So if I'm going down, 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 when I'm moving in a downwards motion, going down, to hit that string again, I have to come back over the top of it and then go down again. It's a lot of motion, so why not just hit it on the way back up instead? It minimizes the motion that you do and just allows for a lot faster, smoother playing. So try to get into alternate picking because I guarantee it will make your life easier. Another crucial thing is to make sure you use all your fingers. So I see people trying to play things with one finger. Just not a good idea in any situation. So make sure you use all your fingers, especially your little finger. Don't forget about it, because a lot of people, they use these three fingers a lot and then this one just doesn't seem to exist to them. So make sure you use this one so that you can build them all up in strength, otherwise you'll just have a really weak pinky compared to the rest of them. So let's say we're doing just a major scale. All my fingers are coming into play. So let's say I'm going to play this little riff that's going to go 7 to 6. Now you could go 7, 6 with one finger and it can work just fine. But why not make use of more fingers. I could do the first note with my second finger. That's right, second finger. And then my first finger is kind of lined up for the 6. And it's just a lot easier and a lot simpler. Let's say we're adding the 9 in as well. Might as well do that with my fourth finger as it's lined up over the top. You could do it with your third finger. That's not wrong. Then that leaves your fourth finger tied up to go further, if you want to. So next time you're playing something, just take a look and think, is this the best finger choice for this riff? Could I move my fingers around and use some different fingers to make it more efficient, more economic, make it less work for my fingers, and overall just make my guitar playing a lot smoother? And as for some final thoughts on all this, while these are the main habits that stick out in my head, there are probably more that I could pick up on, but focus on these ones. What I'm trying to encourage here is that you analyse your own playing and experiment with different ways of doing things. Very often if you find that you've plateaued at your guitar playing, like you feel like you can't get any better or there's something you just can't do for some reason, it's probably because there's a flaw in your technique somewhere. So you have to examine it, experiment with different things and just analyse yourself. It's the best way to get better. And really on guitar there's nothing you can't accomplish. If you want to be able to play a certain thing or play a certain way, you can do it. You just have to learn how to do things correctly, practice them a hell of a lot. It may take hours, may take days, may take years. Perseverance is the key to success. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next future. That doesn't make sense.